Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, once again, a warm welcome to the Tourism Students Festival 2020, organized by New Tourism Foundation, the first ever initiative at the national level to focus on education sector on tourism, bringing students in academia into an interface with the industry and the government, with a view to prepare for the challenges for the new normal. And on behalf of New Tourism Foundation, I extend a warm welcome to all our eminent panel members of this session. And ladies and gentlemen, the topic for this session is revolutionizing travel and tourism through technology. Technology has been a part of the tourism and the travel industry, helping businesses with the day-to-day operations while also improving the customer experience. More so now, technological advances in revolutionizing travel and tourism, it has changed the way we travel. These new developments promise an even more interactive and exciting experience. Mobile technology has become our guide, travel agency, best restaurant locator, map and more. Virtual assistants like Siri and Alexa are being used on a daily basis, even to get the weather. Need we say more? Technology is revolutionizing travel and tourism. And to begin the proceedings, may I introduce our eminent panelists. We have on the panel with us Mr. Pankaj Manchanda, founder and CEO at Orc Traveller from South Delhi. Mr. Pankaj's new venture, Orc Traveller, creates enhanced augmented reality-based multimedia experiences for visitors to interact and engage with different points of interest at World Heritage Sites and buildings of historical significance. The use case adopts AR tech along with curated multimedia content to help users explore history like never before. Orc Traveller has been recognized by DIPP, Government of India, and on board in the Startup India ecosystem. It has also been nominated as one of the top most innovative and promising startups in the travel tech domain by Ministry of Tourism and Invest India. Our eminent panelist, Mr. Suraj Ravi, is CEO and founder of QWR Interactive Solutions. The question, what's real? India's young and emerging immersive technology startup. A tech visionary, Mr. Suraj is the man behind ideating questions, what's real? QWR is taking it from an idea to founding it in 2017 and making it the revolutionary Indian brand committed to global technological innovation and excellence. He spearheads the task of creating and implementing the organization's vision and mission and overall direction, disrupting the existing immersive technology industry. Mr. Suraj has structured QWR in a way that it controls the entire chain, managing the immersive technology platform, including the manufacturing hardware, software, developer ecosystems, and more. On the panel, we have with us Dr. Anupama Malik, founder, director, CEO, and MD of Vizara Technologies Private Limited, and has worked in the IT industry for several years, was one of the first women entrepreneurs in the country in 1990s, heading a software consultancy firm. She has a long association with the Multimedia Research Group of the Electrical Engineering Department, IIT Delhi, and has worked at senior scientist positions in projects sponsored by DST, Government of India, TCS Research Labs, and Samsung Research India. She is a member of the ACM. Our eminent panelist, Mr. George Nathaniel, is Managing Director and CEO at Acaria Software Solutions with 22 plus years in the travel, tourism, and the hospitality industry. Recently awarded the Best Leader in Hospitality and Tourism Technology 2019, followed by the Hospitality Superstar Award on the 14th of Feb 2020. And ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished moderator for this session is Mr. Sanjay Soni, who is Vice President TSF'20, Director Marketing and Communications, New Tourism Foundation, and also the Chief Knowledge Director at Incredible Design. And may I now hand over to our distinguished moderator, Mr. Sanjay Soni. Over to you, sir, to kindly carry forward the proceedings.
Welcome. ladies and gentlemen, lady and the gentlemen, thank you for being here. New Tourism Foundation welcomes you at this Tourism Student Festival. This festival is designed to create a bridge between the academia, industry, and the students. We started with a little idea of creating a little activity, but it's become so large today that seems to be the largest tourism festival or event in the country as of now. So it's a great honor and a privilege to moderate a session like this and with people like you. I'm an architect by education. I run a design company, and I'm into tourism marketing. So for me, tourism technology is a tool to market and position tourism in the first place. I want to start this with a little screen of mine, which is my favorite. If you see on the screen, there is our favorite creature. This is from an interesting story by Ivan Krylov. It's called The Inquisitive Man. It talks about the elephant in the room. It's an interesting story which says that there's a man who goes to a museum one day, a museum of natural history in somewhere in Russia, I think. And he comes back and he meets the wise man in the village and says, I went to this room, I saw these animals, I saw the dinosaur, his length of this nail was this long, the tail was so long, and this. And he goes to describing each and everything about the animals. The wise man says, did you see the elephant in the room? He says, no, I did not see the elephant in the room. So the question was that this guy was so inquisitive to understand what was the elephant. What did he mention? And he said, are you sure that there was an elephant in the room? The catch was, yes, the elephant was there in the room, and we didn't notice the elephant in the room. This man who wrote this story was Ivan Andreevich Krylov, and we call this elephant in the room as technology. I would say, going back to our Indian storytelling, there is this story of where we have 9 blind men who would go around an elephant, try to look at it. So let's assume we are 4 of us here to feel this elephant in the room and look at from our sides what we think of this elephant. Interesting. Pankaj, I think I'll start with you to start with. When we were curating this part of the topic here, we wanted to bring in for the students to understand that tourism technology does not purely mean a ticketing system or a reservation system or going to the internet and searching or browsing or looking at a search engines. Technology was beyond, and because we have reached a level with you guys sitting here, where technology is more towards enhancing the experience of a consumer on the site. It's gone beyond a screen. So what part of the elephant do you feel and touch, Pankaj? All yours.
Mute. Pankaj, you're muted.
Right. Thanks for the question, Sanjay. It's a pleasure to be here in this panel. I think you correctly pointed out that the way that people have been really experimenting with curating their own, should I say, experiences, so-called experiences, have been only limited to the booking systems and the places that one would want to visit. So it's like you have preset kind of content structures which have been there available on the internet, and you just browse and you just try and figure out what the top bubble ratings are, and then you try to figure out, okay, I would want to see A, B, C when I visit a new place, right? And what we figured was, when we wanted to really evolve the technology to the next level and see what are the capabilities that we can really encash on, was really letting go of this cookie cutter kind of an approach, right? And really unbundle the itinerary in some way, right? So the idea is that if I am going to a new place, is there a way that instead of a travel agent or someone from a tourism company really selling me a set itinerary of 3 days, 4 days, 12 days, where I have to go through specific places of interest that they have outlined for me, right? Rather than me asking me what I like, right, as a visitor. Is there a way that I could actually turn the table in some way, right? So it's like create your own pizza or create your own sundae. So that got us to really think that probably we should try and now adopt technological interventions which are rapidly evolving by the day to probably bring forth a kind of a use case where you said that, okay, I as a person and my family or my friends like X, Y, Z when we travel, right? We want to go to a beach rather than going to a mountain. When we go to a beach, we would want to experience the local flavor, the local food, the community trails, all of those nuances. I like history or I like nature. So all those nuances, if I basically get a liberty to tick mark on that, and then probably the technology enables to create an itinerary for me, right? That's part one. And the intelligent itinerary starts to interact with the weather conditions. It starts to interact with the dynamic festivals or curated experiences that are happening during that time of visit. That's the other one. And then when I'm actually at specific sites, it actually gives me a more personalized, curated experience for the site, right? So whether we at a natural site or a cultural heritage site, you start with the history. I think in most of our cases, when you travel, you start with the history of the place. So that's where we all started, right? So from our perspective, the use case was simple as that. How do we personalize the entire experience of travel? And how do we essentially take the experiential travel to the next level using the new age technologies? That includes VR, AR, artificial intelligence, analytics, all of that really comes in play. But those, I would imagine, are kind of an intervention only. So it's not a kind of an end in itself, right? Those are kind of tools that you would want to really adopt and evolve to create a solution which help the larger audiences to build their own experiences. Wherein we are also now looking at, if I take another minute of yours, is that we would want, like TripAdvisor has been the big daddy of that, the model where the consumers of content are also creators of content, right, in some way. I think that is the crucial piece. And when you look at the student community, specifically in the tourism fraternity, right, the travel fraternity, I think these are the kind of audiences that we would want to now probably engage with more, right, at the university level, at the student level, to collaborate and co-create these experiences using the platforms that we are really developing. So I think Anupama and Suraj definitely would have some more points to make on that context, but that's my 2 cents on it.
Thank you, Pankaj. Anupama, as we have been earlier discussing also on this fact, while Pankaj takes you to the phone or a gadget for that matter, you actually have replicated the real monuments in a miniature level to take them to every household.
Yeah.
It's an amazing project that you ventured on. How did this happen? And I think the student community wants to really like to understand here that it's going beyond just visiting a monument. It's taking a monument back home.
Yes. I think Sanjay, we were, thanks for, again, I think Pankaj, whatever he's already detailed out for the students as to the experience part of it. So while we were, I was doing my project actually at IIT Delhi, and I kind of finishing the PhD, and this came along that while you are working on tech, why not talk of work something and do something about heritage. And so we wondered, what can you do? What can you do for heritage? That's social studies, this is science, they are 2 different subjects. But personally, I've never felt that, because, there are 2 aspects to all of tourism. And one is, I'm only going to be talking of heritage because you've mentioned about monuments, etc. So I think there is always so much of science and technology which has been there in our heritage, in our roots, which somehow we are not aware of. And when you go to a particular site, you basically just see, okay, there is a history here. That is mostly what is said. Nobody is talking of the engineering and the architecture and maybe the science which was applied to build those monuments. So we decided to apply our technologies, which included a lot of 3D modeling, laser scanning, using 3D printing, in fact, to create some replicas, which you already mentioned. And in fact, the challenge given to me when I started my own company was that you recreate these at all levels. I want to see a miniature which is handheld. I want to see a table on which a monument can fit. I want to see a room in which a replica of a monument can fit, and I can walk around and have experiences. And of course, then you enhance it with augmented reality, virtual reality, holograms, projection mapping, etc. So I do have something here, which, since you mentioned it, so let me just show you. So this is, if you see here, is actually the stone chariot of Hampi. And this is a small replica. It is created from laser scan data. So this is a true scale replica of the stone chariot. And what we have done is that we have even created, a feature where if you were to look inside this, I don't have my phone with me, otherwise I would have shown it to you. You can maybe see a bit of light and see inside it. Is it possible?
Oh.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it visible? A little bit of...
Yeah, it's a bit visible.
Yes, yes, it's a bit.
Okay. I didn't carry a torch.
But we get the idea. Quite cool.
And you can see inside. And this is, a scale of 1:30. So you have brought down from about 17 feet this monument. And the other thing we've done is to recreate maybe how it may have been. So we've created this, conjecture of, it is obviously coming from historical evidence. It is coming from literature and what people have written and some photographs. So now this is how this chariot may have been. So, keeping these and taking them home is something that excites people. It makes them inquire. So when you're talking of the inquisitive man, I think having these monuments and having these little replicas with you, whether they are room scale for the museums or whether they are handheld for your home, I think it can be very exciting. And this is something that everyone, I think, should be looking at seriously. So we've just done a prototype. We have now 3D printers. We have, laser scanning, all kind of technologies available. And over these, by the way, so after you have this with you, we have like what Pankaj has done. We do have a phone, which if you point at this, will start to tell you more about it. What is this statue here? What is this? Why is this design of the wheel in a particular way? Why is this top the way that we have recreated? So further on, you add, further tech, maybe the glasses that Suraj will talk about. Maybe tomorrow I just have to wear a glass, and when I look at it, there are different things happening. There are animations which start to happen. So, those kind of things can be very, very exciting, I think, for students and for tourists as well.
Anupama, what is the scale of these models? I saw this very small one, but what is actually the scale that you intend to put in museums?
So in the museums, we normally put about about 2.5 feet size of a chariot. Here, this is about 6 inches. This is about a 5-inch, and we actually sell this on Amazon. So this is available for people can look for stone chariot, Hampi 3D printed, and they can buy this. And with this comes, tomorrow, I think very soon we will be having an AR app, which you just download on your phone, and then it, talks to you about this chariot. And like this, we have many other things. So we also did, by the way, we did a little Gandhiji statue here. This is, you may have heard of Ram Sutar, who's just built the Statue of Unity.
Yes.
The very, 94-year-old sculptor, Indian sculptor. So he has made this statue, and this has again been laser scanned and recreated here. And when we have an AR app on the, Play Store. So this again starts to talk of, this is our intangible heritage. This is again tourism in a different way. You would want to know about the celebrities, our personalities who've been very, very important in our lives. So this is another aspect. So I'll go into it later. I think I have answered your question for now.
Yes, excellent. George, sorry, Suraj, I'll come to you later because you are the man you're the eyes for us.
In fact, I'm going to have something to show you in terms of museum experiences, but later. I think after Suraj has spoken.
George,
Sure.
you saw one guy talking of AR. You saw Anupama talking about recreation of monuments. You come from a field of AI and you're using AI algorithms. I'm talking to George. So, George, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there.
Okay. So, what do you think that in future, how will I choose to go to a monument? How do you make a choice to go to a monument? If I have something available on my phone, I've got something available at my doorstep. I have a little, what do you call it? A showpiece in my window on my desktop, which is a Humpy recreation. I can pull out my phone. Do I still make a choice? What will govern the choices in the future?
Thank you for the question, Sanjay. So allow me to answer this question in a very simplified manner. So when you look at travel and tourism, in the initial days, it was on a paper module. So starting from our tickets to any travel component that we had. So growing over, everything has come onto an automation process. And in today's world, it's all about AI. So when I talk about AI, I talk about brand positioning. It's how you position your brand online. The next thing beyond brand positioning is how you guide your custom travelers or your custom clients to your website through AI devices. The next thing that we have is the convenience of travel through the technology. So when I mean convenience of travel, what I mean is be it traveling by air, or be it checking into a hotel, or be it traveling anywhere. Earlier, if you were traveling to an airport, for instance, we would actually take an estimated time. But now, okay, we have a Google map that guides you. We have other devices that guides you. Similarly, when we land at a particular unknown city, we can use devices that Anupama has created, or Pankaj has created, or Suraj has in place. So these devices can give you specialized information about a particular location, about a particular city, about a particular outlet. Now, if you look at today's scenario is a virtual world. So when I'm talking about a virtual world, I'll give you two real-time examples. One is a lot of companies are into virtual events. So when I'm talking about virtual events, they're creating a virtual scenario altogether. And similarly, when I'm talking in terms of a travel and tourism per se, now earlier we had itineraries, or we have photographs, or we had PPTs which we would showcase. But just imagine if you could use any of these devices to take your travelers through a custom virtual world to where they want to go and how they want to go, and the convenience of going there. I think putting all this together is actually AI. And most simple thing that a student has to understand is technology is made by man and is driven by man. And the more we adapt to technology, it gives us a wider experience, not just in growing our own careers, but growing our own network far and wide. And of course, we are in the service industry. So being in the service industry, it's all about selling an experience. So if we are able to sell an experience in a simplified manner, we will be able to convert, I would say, more business, and of course, enhance our network as well. I think for all students who are out here listening to me and all students online, the most simplest thing that you should do is adapt to technology. Understand that, okay, we had a mobile phone. Earlier, maybe it was just a message or a call, but now it's beyond that. It's a FaceTime. It's beyond that. It's a video call. We're doing much more on our phones than anything else. That all this is technology, and all this is AI. So if you can adapt to a technology on our simplified phones, why not along our career pathways? Why not along our lives? So there are a lot of tools that, yes, we can adapt to and make our life simpler, and of course, grow a bigger and better future for all of us. Thank you, Sanjay. I think I've answered your question.
Yeah, thank you, George. You actually triggered something else. Forget answering that question. You see, when you're talking experiences, making choices, Suraj, you come in with a fact. Your company your logo is question what is real, and here we have two people who are actually creating an unreal environment, and
Correct.
there's one who's trying to tell us that our choices will be made by algorithms. So how do you fit in as answering? What side of the elephant are you on?
Right. I'm actually trying to sit in the middle, right? We are all a quantum state of matter. So I'm sure that everyone over here understands the logic of superposition. Humans in general in diverse geographies.
Surat, can you talk human language?
Okay, sorry about that. So humans are like a lot of people generally say that humans are binary species, but we generally don't believe that. And now that we are housing a entire free youthful demographic of such a huge massive audience, right, that is like digital first, like they're born inside the information age. Like I was born in 1992, so the internet was born with me, fortunately. So now am I not supposed to take advantage of that? That's a question that every child has to ask themselves. Very simply speaking, a person born a decade before that would probably be telling the same about maybe a car, or a decade before that about a telephone, or a decade before that about something else. So it's really about where and what time you're born in, and what that particular era has to offer, and how you're going to take maximum advantage of it. Now to come back to your question, so one thing that was not addressed, which I feel is of very much importance when it comes to discussing travel, is time. Nostalgia has a lot of value, a lot of reason in terms of making a person travel to a particular place. But say, for example, I have a grandfather, and my grandfather wants to, like, he's almost reached a particular age where it's going to be difficult for him to travel outside, but he wants to make that one great trip to reminisce his days in the 50s. There has to be about 4 or 5 convenient options for him available today, be it 2020, for him to be able to do that. Now let's try to answer that same possibility with a Vizara Tech who is preserving this particular nature and is able to travel back in time, because she actually took a deconstructed model and constructed it. In the 1950s, when my grandfather was probably walking on those streets in Chennai, he probably saw that thing in its entire fruition, and he wants that feeling again. That feeling he might not be able to get even after he physically goes there, right? So a Vizara can primarily capture that, create that, and use a medium like virtual reality to really allow this person to get that entire feedback, right? Get that hit of nostalgia, because that's what he really wants. He is compromising when he is going in 2020 to that place with, wearing a mask or whatever. But the experience he dreamt of today can be delivered to him. Previously, it couldn't be, right? Now, the same layer can be attached to a person telling a story, where a child has to be transported to the 1940s to really understand what the 1940s felt like. Even as an incentive for that child to really use new technologies, they really need to understand what the past looked like. And you can't expect that child to understand what the past looked like using basic modes of communication that are ubiquitous for them, right? Like a computer or a YouTube video. You need to give them something. You have to incentivize them with something that they really get crazy about, or they become very curious about. And we really feel that more than anybody else on the planet, technologies like AR, VR, XR, plus AI and all these things are really going to be utilized as well as adopted by the youth more than anybody else, right? It's going to be built by them, with their conscious effort or without their conscious effort, right? And it is going to be like scaled by them going forward. And very simply speaking, try and tell a child today, a 14 or a 15-year-old, to take a phone and click pictures of a place, right? They might not want to do that unless it is a picture that is talking about themselves. But give them a device like this and tell them that, there is a game and you have to excel in that game by going and exploring this place. Find something that is not found before by creating a particular treasure hunt or something like that, like gamifying a curiosity experience will allow this youth to also value like old age stuff, which they don't value. Like history has lost a 20-decade bit of, value. Like history books have not changed. It's been quite some time that has happened. And the value of content keeps dropping because every year there are new children with newer, faster opinions. So how do how do you get there and constantly stay with them? You get there and constantly stay with them by really connecting yourself directly with the student and building the platform with them, rather than building one and expecting that platform to work as per their requirements. I really hope that I answered the question. I tried to be as concise as possible.
I would like to just chip in here because so exciting when he mentioned treasure hunt and a game. And when we were creating this exhibition for Mahatma Gandhi, we actually created a VR experience, which was a treasure hunt inside Sabarmati Ashram. So, all the children had the maximum fun when they wore a headset and actually went around Sabarmati Ashram finding, these treasures, which were actually quotes by Gandhiji and his letters and whatnot. So I think what you just said is absolutely valid. Yeah. Sorry. I'll have.
Yeah, quite interesting. Suraj, you brought in a point of the new age millennials or young guys trying to look at how technology works. I'll share a anecdote with you. I was trying to convince my son to buy a watch, and he said it's a single gadget operation. I'm sorry, I can't. So it's strange. How do you react? How do you guys react to that? Are we looking at our gadgets being multifunctional? Our things are us to respond much more than they were designed for?
We are losing.
You or anybody?
It's a beautiful question though. So very simply speaking, when I was 16, my dad actually gifted me a watch, and that watch was just a simple Casio watch, which was a mechanical watch. But I was just 16, right? I was pretty much used to video games and all of that, and I was a technocrat and all that. But the gift in itself was given to me as a value in terms of that asset that I hold in my hand, right? But a millennial doesn't seem to relate to that because, a 60,000 rupee iPad is already lying in the house. Please understand that, right? It's already lying in the house. There was a place in the house that was called a library.
Sorry,
now that thing is lying. There was a place in the house that was called a library.
Okay.
Right? Now that thing is now just a Kindle lying on a tea table, or it's lying in my dad's car in the back seat or something like that. So we ourselves drive what value is as users, right? Now, if we are able to now, for example, your child grows a little bit older and maybe he takes fitness as a primary thing that he has to focus on, because he's going to go to college, or, he probably has a skinny profile. I have a skinny profile. That's why I'm trying to get into that. So the watch has a very great utility over there, because you see the watch in today's day has become a 2:1 sort of a form factor where you're able to address a prior problem, which is understanding time. But then time, the reference of time is not something that we only need a watch for. Like, the reference of time is everywhere. There are multiple screens in multiple places. There are thousands of clocks running across the world. So the child in its organic self does not find value in just knowing time out of wearing something on their hand, right? Even though I'm a technocrat today, I feel weird when I leave the house without a mechanical watch. I don't know why.
Why is that?
So that's what I'm saying. It's my conditional programming through time, right? So, and now this conditional programming through time for me might have been, my random access memory might have been 5 years long. But a millennial, when you talk about a millennial, that thing is almost minuscule. Like, it's almost a quarter over quarter where they change opinions and they change choices. And yeah, they are the majority, and we have to work for primarily, solving problems for them. So I don't see that. So very simply, a product like Oral, now I am trying to convince a child who might be wearing glasses now as a characteristic, or wearing just prescription glasses, to try and use it rather than using traditional glasses. The entire USP or a sales pitch to a child is that ye sari cheezein to buddhe pehante hain. And the moment you tell him that, there is no other thing that he's going to go to, right? He's going to want to do what every other child wants to do in that market. So we even, our product design team focuses a lot in understanding the millennial, right? Because we really feel that we don't understand it. Even though I am quite young, I still don't understand it. I still do focus groups with 12-year-olds. I still do focus groups with 15-year-olds. I still do focus groups with 18-year-olds with the same product, and I get 3 different stories. And fortunately or unfortunately, all 3 have to download that same app. And the app has to respond differently to all these 3 separate people. And that's where George's AI might be able to help, contextualize and aggregate this kind of hyper-local, tailor-made, custom-made solutions to a particular consumer. So there is a lot of work that students can do in even getting that data, making sense of that data, understanding that data, packaging that data, developing for that data, and then finally selling that data. We don't seem to be communicating with people about how a software, right, gets attached to every single industry in a top-down vertical. There is no system or function in this world that can move without software today, right? So that idea has to be adopted to them, because software is as ubiquitous to them as electricity was for me.
Correct.
So that's why there is no value, and we can't blame them. It's actually our fault. Our messaging is wrong, or we are out of date, or we are not able to keep up with the time, because we are right now on a hockey stick metric, especially India as a demographic is on a completely hockey stick metric now, especially when it comes to the youth. The internet users are increasing substantially. All these users are generally youth focused. Like there is a 4:1 ratio between a person who is about 35 buying a SIM card versus a person buying under the age of 35 buying a SIM card. So what we are realizing is that these children are the guys who are really the primary adopters. And with the pandemic, this has accelerated even further. Like digital adoption has accelerated even further. So yeah, now is the time. Now is the time to really double down on both for us as people of the community to educate these masses about the value of these things, and both for the students also to take more interest on how this is going to affect their careers. I hope that summarized quite a bit.
Can I add something to what you're saying, Suraj?
Yes, of course.
So if you look at AI as of today, now we are so driven by the online reputation tools. We are so driven by the meta search engines, or we are so driven by keywords that have been positioned by the brand websites. So it's quite complicated, as in what are you actually driven by? Like
yeah, I agree on that completely.
The simplest form is to adapt to technology. The moment you adapt to technology, it makes it convenient to understand where you're getting streamed.
Correct.
Yes, Sanjay.
No, fine. Perfect, great. So I was going to ask you this next one, because essentially, Suraj is doing products, correct? Anupama is doing virtual recreation of monuments. How do you see that the simple data analytics on a websites can be used or are making changes in lives of people? What we see around us is that your data is being maneuvered, your data is being taken care of, somebody is reading you, somebody is knowing about you. What is your take on this so-called?
Let's try. So for addressing the elephant in the room,
yeah.
Google cannot be Google without your data.
Correct.
Your searches can become better only if Google knows more about you.
Your privacy is gone then. Yep.
Yeah. Now, privacy is very different for a consumer who has been in that, who has been pre-privacy and post-privacy. And it's very different for a millennial, right? Now, for a millennial, there are very different problems in terms of privacy. So I really don't think that we can sandbox both these opinions into the same equation when we are discussing privacy as a matter, or how backend data analytics works. Data science has seen the most amount of uptick in India when it comes to the student population, because India houses 30% of the entire data across the world. 30% of that data will not be able to fit in hard drives if you put hard drives from Kanyakumari all the way to Jammu Kashmir.
True.
That's the amount of data we are talking about. And someone, a human, right? A human has to sit and make sense of this data. So if you're from Patna and you think that you can do better for Patna, try and capture as much data as possible and try to make sense of that data, right? Because it's a data-driven world right now. So Patna, Kanpur, Bihar, UP, anywhere, like it doesn't matter. You can go hyper-local and there is still too much value you can get. Once you sit with it and you plot it on a graph or something, right? You try and do a little bit of study on what data science is and how you can early on just try to simplify and understand and comprehend what's up. You would be able to understand the value of it automatically.
Suraj, can I add a little more to what you're saying?
Yeah, George.
Like Sanjay, like we were saying, see earlier all the websites, just to get back to basic websites, they were more of static informational websites. But in today's scenario, everybody is going in for a dynamic website. So when I'm talking about dynamic website, I'm talking about a dynamic interactive website, not just somewhere where you come for information. It's somewhere where you can come, it drives you information, it drives you to your products or the service, and it takes you to the completion of what you're looking for. So I feel in the current scenario, the most basic things that we should do is, if you're looking at in terms of travel or tourism, the more dynamic your website, the more interactive tools that you have, it becomes easier for you and easier for your sustainability. You go to any of the modules. If you look at an airline is selling you an air ticket. You have a tool that comes and upsells a service. It could be a food and beverage. It upsells your pre-check-ins. It upsells your excess baggage. At the end of it, it comes back with a reputation management tool. A reputation management is what drives you at the end of everything. So similarly, all our services are driven by how dynamic we are online and how much we actually optimize on being, I would say, interactive with our clients online. Because AI is all about being interactive. AI is not about uploading a product and letting it stay by itself. Till the time you're not interactive, nothing happens. And it definitely takes a workforce behind that tool. And that workforce are the students who need to adapt to technology and inculcate all this online.
George, this is what brings me, this is a very interesting point you just mentioned about interactive. Because see, we are talking of hardware and we're talking software, but in the end, human interface is there. We do not want to mention COVID or that situation as of now, but this last 4 or 5 months has forced us to move towards contactless life. What we called, actually we should have called it physical distancing, we call it social distancing. But in this physical distancing situation, where do you think technology plays a role in the future as we go on towards being contactless? Because I remember, see, like the first thing that we were taught when we were growing up was how to do a handshake. Today we are taught, do not do a handshake. So there's a marked shift in how we are living our lives today. See, like right. That meet and greet. I remember that film Munna Bhai where the Jadoo Ki Jappi was the biggest thing to do. I'm sure the movie won't do good in this season. So what is the future of contactless that you go in?
Okay, Sanjay, just to begin with, I'll tell you, the pandemic has actually brought about a digital India.
Yeah.
In this 4 or 5 months of this pandemic, people have adapted to digital. And be it any scenario, the first thing that a client would do or a customer would do is go online and search. You would search for any information. The next thing that you would do is look for a review. So when I'm talking contactless, I'll give you a very specific, let me give you a very specific information in terms of a scenario. Let's say you have travel, you have tourism, you have hospitality. Let's say a hotel in terms of a scenario. So someone going onto a hotel website would go on Google and search. And when you're searching on Google, you actually get a lot of meta search comes in. You have a Google hotel ads that are there. You have the primary online travel agents who are there. It's all subject to bidding that you online. And you also have the brand website. Let's say somebody chooses to go through the brand website. I'm giving a very simplified manner, simplified process, because it's all students out here. The moment you go onto the brand website, definitely what you want to go through is to the gallery. So on the gallery, they actually want to They would want you to take you to the entire property to see how you're showcasing the property. So that is the brand positioning that we're talking about. Now the brand positioning is actually done through a lot of video graphics. So once you get a proper insights of the property, and along with all the compliances, COVID compliances that you're actually following, you actually feel much more safer for, yes, I'm going to a very good property, they're following all compliances and my travel will be fruitful. The next scenario comes in the comfort of making a reservation. The moment you make a reservation and taking to the entire process, an easy process, a time-saving process of making a reservation, the reservation could be automated, it could be guided through a chatbot. Because a lot of these companies also use artificial intelligence through chatbots to guide you, to encourage you to actually push upsell. The moment you're sold, and the moment a booking is sold, and if it's on the way to the property, you also have interactive Google Maps or chatbots that actually guide you through the property. While you reach the property, okay, at the time of check-in, earlier days you had to produce your details to check-in, but now, yes, you can check in from your phone itself by producing your documents. So we have a contactless check-in. So the moment you're inside a property, you can download the app and you can order any guest services through the concierge tool that you have. And the moment you come out of the property, check out from the property after settling all the bills, it's followed up with a reputation management tool. A reputation management is one of the, I would say, the most important tool in today's world. Because if you don't have a reputation management tool, it's very difficult to be there on the top page. So once you're out of the property, you come back with a reputation management tool saying, please share your experiences. So that experiences through the AI actually goes on, gets captured onto the online travel agents, to the website, to Google, to I would say TripAdvisor, which is a meta search engine that you have. And similarly, going forward, whenever that actually completes the cycle for you. So next time when someone comes and visiting that same property, he goes into look at his feedback in terms of your reputation, in terms of your service evaluation, in terms of your property scaling. I think contactless is there, but contactless will not happen without somebody being there behind that. Like I keep emphasizing on the fact that yes, behind every product or brand, every technology, there's someone to drive that technology.
I want to add something there.
Yes, sure.
So Sanjay, when George is talking of this whole thing of right in the beginning, he said that there is a gallery and there is a lot of videography involved, and there are a lot of people who probably walk around and want to know what the property is like if they were to go, and rest of it obviously follows. I just want to add that we've been approached by so many times. I mean, even you have spoken of it, that today using whatever is now the new devices that you have. So whether it's the VR headset that Suraj has let's say made, it's very easy now to be able to make people actually feel they are inside the hotel, having a different experience, more immersive of being inside, let's say the bar or their swimming pool, or maybe the room, how it may look, how they may want to sit. They can be made interactive, where they actually pick up a few things and see how big is the TV, or how big is the the bed, or how different. So being immersed in that may add more value for the hotels to actually offer it to people. The other thing is that we actually talked of even collaborative VR. So a family who's got a son in Singapore and the daughter, let's say, studying in Chennai, may want to together go and experience in VR, virtual reality. Okay, what will happen if we are all sitting at the swimming pool, and what kind of an experience may happen? And all this is today possible to be able to do with the hardware that he has and with the kind of software that I am talking of. And I can create in VR, a nighttime or a daytime or an afternoon, or music being there, a different simulation of many different things. So I think these things will add to the contactless experiences for the hotels to be able to sell themselves. I think that will be a big value add from tech if it comes to people to make those choices as to where they want to go.
Yeah, thank you, Anupama. Pankaj, when we are talking contactless, your technology only starts to work when the guy is on the monument. So to use your stuff, one has to really reach out to that. You're truly a sustainable technology kind of a person. You're not replacing the real with the unreal. But then when the person is there, you bring in that unreal factor into it of enhancing the experience. Could you talk about something like that? And also try to bring in, I would ask you to bring in the fact of how does technology really connect to the community in the place. Because technology is generally seen as alien. Your comments?
Sure. So, and I totally agree with the comments that you made earlier, and George actually reinstilled on that, digital disruption was always on the horizon, right? It was around 3-4 years away, but the pandemic really has preponed the digital disruption, and this has given the opportunity for all digital players to really test out their new technologies, and also the user groups across different segments have had no other option but to adopt the technology. So I think it's a kind of a blessing in disguise for technology and digital disruption, which has happened over the last couple of months in some way. From our perspective, as Org Traveler, as a startup, I think our mandates were always that we wanted to build a kind of a model, and evolve a model which really positively impacts all the stakeholders across the value chain, right from travel partners to definitely starting from the visitors to travel partners to also local communities, and there's also a student community angle that we have, right? So what we also had to pivot a bit in some way where like you correctly pointed out earlier on, the Org Traveler experience for a World Heritage Site, you had to be there for the augmented reality layer to really trigger, and then you get to interact with the point of interest within the heritage site, and you get those 3D models and you start interacting with them. But what we did was we unlocked all those models. So now the current generation of Org Traveler that we have for the 9 World Heritage Sites in the Golden Triangle, you can actually play out all those experiences wherever you are, right? And that was specifically crucial because what we figured was that since everybody was under a lockdown, people wanted to travel, right? So there were quite a few, one can understand from the data, and that everybody was looking at VR kind of experiences. 360 was the new kind of should I say experience everybody wanted to seek out for, and there were travel videos one had to search for. So what we did was that with the augmented reality aspects now unlocked, you can actually experience the AR experience for all the World Heritage Sites wherever you are, right? And you can actually play a small video when I ask you to, Sanjay. You can actually give them a kind of an experience of how you can actually see an AR experience on your smartphone, but in a bit. What also extended from there is a school outreach program that we have, right, with Macmillan Education. And most of these students really go to a monument or a heritage site as part of their visit, right? It's a kind of a study come play way kind of an excursion trip. From our school outreach programs context, we have co-created multidisciplinary activity books which are mapped to the grade level. And we've tried to create a Tintin or an Asterix equivalent series. The premise is a World Heritage Site, right? So the perspective was that when I say multidisciplinary, just to give you some examples, if I'm with the Qutub complex, we talk about the iron pillar not rusting, then the concept of metallurgy comes in play. We talk about domes and squinches, geometry comes in play. If we talk about different ticket prices, algebraic expressions come in play. If we talk about Taj Mahal going green, yellow, air quality index comes in play. So whatever concepts the kids are picking up in school in class, they can actually start to apply that. And while they do the application of their knowledge on the concepts, they also develop this appreciation of the cultural heritage that we have, which is kind of missing, because most of the students, they go to a site as like a picnic spot for them or an Instagram opportunity, right? Suraj would be able to, so he's nodding, right? So that's one part which actually triggered. So Macmillan Education is now taking out all these experiences, because now all of these are unlocked experiences. We're going to around 30,000 partner schools of Macmillan with this activity book and the app experience and some videos, which actually complete the experience for the students as well. The second part was specifically when you talk about sustainability. I think we were very clear in our context that it has to actually draw in and connect the dots across the value chain. And when you talk about travel, it will invariably start with the history of the place, which is the built heritage. But somewhere down the line, when you've seen the built heritage, you ticked it out, you want to experience the local flavor, right? Now the local flavor really comes in from the local art, food, craft, right? All those nuances really come in play where the communities have to play a very important role, the local communities. Sorry. So what we figured was that in a traditional setup, there is this middle line of businesses which are really procuring these unique, authentic products from the local communities at very cheap cost and selling it at huge profits. Okay. And then there is this other layer of local business partners and community players who are also doing these heritage trails and walks in those regions. So what we are now doing is that we're connecting, obviously it was part of the roadmap that we basically evolve these walks and geotag the community businesses so that there is a kind of a sustainable livelihood model which evolves on one hand for the communities. And since we are promoting their traditional crafts, we are also in a way generating demand and therefore preserving the intangible heritage which is required. That's part one. The second part is in the COVID times, we are now opening up our platform to these local community players to actually author and build their own cultural trails for a region, right? So like they say, never let a crisis go waste. So I think we are now trying to open up our platform and work with relevant partners where they can get support from our knowledge partner ecosystem to vet and curate their own trail and author and build it, which will be published on our Traveler platform under their own names, right? So with the digital intervention, they can actually, when the tourism cycle really returns after COVID, they actually have a digital set of trails which can start earning them revenue. But obviously, having said that, since these guys are from the community, they also geotag the community businesses. They help their communities to bring aboard the unique products and services that there are for the community onto our online marketplace. That's the other one. And after COVID, when they'll have more time on their hand because they'll have digital trails already earning money for them, they collaborate and co-create higher end value experiences with the communities, right? Which basically takes the entire experience to the next level for the visitors, and it's a higher monetary gain for them. So the micro level economy actually triggers from that perspective. So they can have more immersive workshops, should I say, a pottery making class or a meditation class, or it could be a music class, right? Or a cookery class. So they can actually collaborate with the community. So the entire ecosystem stands to benefit from it. And that's where I think we've also got some very interesting, should I say, traction and conversations going on with universities specifically, since we are addressing to the student community. We are talking to CEPT in Ahmedabad, SPA, the architectural colleges. We've already collaborated with the Ayojan Architectural College in Jaipur to create our first walk in Chowkari Modi Khana, where we onboarded the Khatera communities, right, in that context. But I think from a larger heritage trail perspective, the tourism colleges that we are addressing at this time have to play a very important role. And that's where when I said, going back to my initial point, that these are the fraternities, the student communities, the universities where we can actually collaborate and co-create these kind of experiences at the university level as well, who can actually then evolve as micro level entrepreneurs themselves, right? While they charter out their career paths in the travel industry. So I think a lot can evolve with the digital disruption which has happened. And so we are getting some very interesting feedback. In fact, Suraj and I are already co-creating some interesting projects. So you'll get to know very soon on those.
Thank you, Pankaj. I have a question for all four of you put together. Technology, we have talked about technology, AI, George, virtual monuments creation, Anupama, Pankaj, you're managing the content, and Suraj, you're doing the products. Where do you think that if you combine all the four or collaborate with all four of you in your different spaces, will transform the tourism education in our institutes? For example, the verticals like culinary or verticals like aviation or verticals like front office. The intention is, do you think that the education across the country in all tourism institutes could be standardized to a particular level with a click of a button?
Well, I'd like to start on that. So obviously, it cannot be solved with a click of a button. There's a lengthy, long process and a very patient process that is going to be probably involved. I don't know what the others are going to say after me, but I'm still going to hold on that. But what I can tell you is the traditional computer, like everyone in every school has something known as a computer class, right? A computer class is something that every single school across the planet teaches you. Don't you think that that computer class has to evolve through time? That computer class, if evolves with a desktop computer with a keyboard, which is now replaced with a virtual reality headset, then that's how the child gets enabled to even discover that, oh, this is what I have to expect from the future. And if the university or the education institute itself is able to endorse this, it adds value to the child, and it adds value to the adds validation to the parent who might be thinking of making that one big investment in the future for that child to have something new in technology that they can tinker with. And yeah, you need a medium, like a medium to communicate on. That's primarily what my company would be taking care of. And right after that bit of the negotiation is done, after that, all the three primarily just fit in, because the communication, the platform is what is primarily essential to be endorsed by institutes first, because you still are using traditional computers, right?
Yeah.
So traditional computers traditional computers already gave you an Expedia, it gave you a bookings.com, it gave you a hotels.com, it gave you Make My Trip and everything. Now, the next big platform cannot be built on that traditional computer.
Correct.
In fact, Sanjay, saying that actually equipping the kids, whoever the labs or the computer classes in your tourism, colleges and universities have to go beyond a computer to having more devices. In fact, they have Atal Innovation Labs, which have been put up by the government, where you can actually have 3D printers and, even teach the kids how to create those AR apps. So, that's actually very simple. I mean, there are tools and platforms which can be made available. A tourism student can actually create an app about, let's say, Qutub Minar or Taj Mahal as to what will happen. He has to put in the content, he has to put in the photographs, and he just makes it available, and he does these things which are going to be the future. So let them actually learn these technologies and learn to use these devices.
That's exactly what I was trying to ask, is
Sanjay,
putting yes, sorry, George.
I actually agree with what Suraj and Anupama is saying, but let us look at a very different scenario in what Suraj is saying, but in a very common scenario. In most of the tourism schools that you have, what do they actually get? They get an internship or they get an OJT. But why can't we have we have something virtual pre to that?
That is exactly what I was trying.
Take them through a virtual environment.
That's exactly what I was. Sorry, George. That is exactly what I was trying to hint at.
So I just want to step in a bit and think that's a very interesting point which has been raised. So in our context, and we are actually going to be starting this at the school level. I think there are different schools that we are engaging with, and universities we've already started to work in some way. For instance, an example of that is the Delhi government schools, right? So they have an entrepreneurship curriculum, right? What does that really mean? Now, there can be a lot of theory in the current education system that one can look at the school system level or the university level. I think what we do lack as a traditional education systems that we have in India is they're not really output focused, and therefore you might be hearing a lot of complaints. Always been there, right? So the kind of qualification or skill sets that are taught to a student at a university level do not necessarily map to the industry requirement. Right. So when we talk about the technology aspect, I think that's where I think we are also trying to collaborate with institutions, with universities, where we can actually embed this kind of a co-creation model at an institutional level with the startup, right? So it's part of their kind of an internship program, if you will, or a kind of a dissertation project where they can actually go co-create these experiences and release it for a wider audience. And while they're doing or working on this project, it's a kind of a live project, Okay, and you learn best when you're working on the job. That's a proven thing. I come from that space, so I can vouch for it, right? So the theory part, you can always, through the rote methodology, and that's where the new education policy, fortunately, is now getting aligned that, you have to be more activity oriented, more experiential learning. So if you can have these kind of associations which forge from between startups and university ecosystems and institutions with sector skill council coming into the larger play of things, and then the startups can actually bring forth all the requirements of the knowledge partnerships, the platform, all of those nuances, and the students can actually work on it and create something out, which can also, right from going from, like Anupama was mentioning, from authoring the content to taking pictures to doing 360 imagery, 3D modeling, all of those nuances, curating content to actually working on new tech, AR, VR, using Unity, Unreal kind of systems to actually market outreach. So the marketing part really comes in when you hit the customer. Handling the Instagram pages, the Facebook pages, all of that. So I think that entire cycle, one needs to really do this. And definitely as startups, I can actually stick my neck out by saying that we are all game for it. We need specific institutions or colleges or schools to really come forth and be receptive to these ideas, and we can just co-create and evolve this. I think it takes the value chain a little higher. It takes it to the next orbit rather.
Sanjay mentioned front office and culinary. Nobody said
no. Why? Just to say here, Anupama, what I was trying to come to is you're very right in saying this. I'm saying how can we leverage technology as a foundation? When we started working on this Tourism Student Festival, I've been relating to a lot of colleges, tier 2, tier 1 towns, metropolises. It's not the, see, I always find that the exposure of a student depends on the academician. But academician also needs to be reached out to and trained. So training the trainer is a very big thing in the future as we go on. To train the entire community or community of students that will come up. And if the students are trained well, that's the future entrepreneurs. So the intention was, if we look at a model of showcasing to a lot of colleges to at least build one set of curriculum as a test case, which can be standardized all across the country, forget the tier of a city. So at least there's one skill set which can a student of tourism be trained, which will match from a Kodaikanal to a village in Jammu to a small institute in Nagaland, for example. So just to bounce it off you guys, because that's where all the verticals of creating a virtual experience of a monument or a gadget which can be just carried and changed, or a website with the AI built in and content being developed by Pankaj. So a combination, a collaboration effort, and reaching on to universities and say, okay, this is one curriculum, this is one chapter, let us handle this chapter for you and let's build a community here.
Absolutely. And I would just want to add on a small point here. I think we have a very kind of an interesting opportunity to interplay here, right? With New Tourism Foundation also spearheading this entire initiative. I know that we have a separate kind of a panel discussion with the Sector Skill Council, right, as well. So if there is a kind of a module that evolves where we can also bring in our expertise, our insight, our experience, and like I said, if we create a kind of a smaller pilot program, which could be standardized and could be instilled at the Sector Skill Council level, I think that would really be an interesting pioneering thing to do and test out, which could be then also followed by the industry in the different domains of, training dissemination and skilling dissemination.
Would be very happy to be part of it.
Yeah, so what I see as structure building here for is a collaborative excellence center of sorts that could be probably put together. Because honestly speaking, you want the student to be the driver of this place. What we are primarily doing is just enabling them, right? So an excellence center will primarily comprise of examples of all the technologies that exist, so that any newcomer can come in first, take a deep breath of all of this, and then try to relate the coursework that has been given to them with the stuff that they just saw, and then create their own ideas of it. and we can always help them, consult with them, advise them on what ideas are possible, what is not possible. If an idea comes in with real value, we are startups, so we don't have no shame. We will go ahead and pick it up and empower that child. So yeah, I think that I would be more than happy to really endorse a project like this, because that's what we are trying to do here. We really want to focus a lot on understanding every single student and how that student can be empowered. Because for me personally, a student in a tourism industry could also contribute to the scientific community, and a scientific community student can also to the tourism community. They just don't know that. And these technologies, right, and these excellence centers that we do in multiple different sectors of education might be able to cross-pollinate once a little bit of maturity has been achieved. I would like to get your insights on this particular perspective that I've shared.
No, in fact, we had something called an International Heritage Symposium and Exhibition, which happened in January. And that was exactly about this, where we brought in, people from IITs and IISc and triple ITs together with cultural historians and academicians and, the researchers who are in this area of history and culture. We wanted to, cross, exactly as you said, cross-pollinate. That is the idea, everyone, I mean, science is doing something, but these people have no idea. These guys have got so many problems and they want issues solved, but the science people don't know, and there is no match. So this, I think, is a super idea of having this one center of excellence where the student explores more and then at least is aware of what is, available.
I think just to add to what Anupama is saying, the students currently, they are very tech savvy. So that plays to our advantage, to whichever way we want to drive them. So the acceptance will come very easily from them.
Yeah, and it's actually good data for us as well. So if you keep a physical interactive solution and you keep an augmented reality solution with an iPad, and you keep a virtual reality headset, and you keep a mixed reality headset, and you would be able to know what technology does the millennial organically want to go and pick, right? Just like when you're a new parent and you're going to gift your child that first toy, you want to give the child like a bunch of options and you want to see what they organically go pick, because that's how you learn what your child's favorite color is. That's how you learn what your child's favorite motive is, or if they are interested in cars or building things or breaking things or whatever. So yeah, like I'm excited already. Like I don't even know how to express it further through this medium of communication.
Oh, wonderful. See, the intention of this activity and interaction is to finally have an outcome, that this is a paper that's ready that we want to go out and implement.
Absolutely.
I think we are close to 1 hours 44 minutes. We could keep going on. Thanks to a fully paid Zoom connection, we can keep going on.
I think thanks to a very, very informed moderator.
Yeah, very informed moderator. I'm really happy about this session, because the equity has been extremely perfectly fragmented and diversified in terms of opinions as well as feedback and questions. So I'm really thankful to Mr. Sanjay and Pankaj for inviting me here.
I simply come from a design background, so there's nothing which is the limit. So we are thinking and learning.
Design has a lot of value, right? Design has a lot of value when it comes to even thinking.
Absolutely.
Like when you evaluate something, if you come from a design background, the way you think of it and the way you review it is very different.
I think I'll now call the house to order and close to the order. We'll ask your views for the students, what you want to say. A brief 2-minute. George, to start with you. What's your address to the students?
I think my address to the students is
tourism student. You're free to address to the tourism academicians also.
To the tourism students, adapt to technology. Whenever you're traveling, try and gather as much as information as possible. Try and see as much as possible. And of course, tradition is our core strength. Get as much as information about our traditions, our culture, about heritage, because that is what we are built on. And that is something that will drive you towards the future. I think there's a very simple message for all of y'all.
Thank you, George. Anupama?
Would you, let me show a little movie?
Sure, of course.
Because, that might just become a little interesting for them to see what are possible things. So I'm going to just share my screen quickly.
Yeah, let me make you a host.
Yeah. That would be my message. Just see what is possible with.
You're the host now.
Yeah. Okay. So I shall share my screen. And I shall just look at this one. Yeah. Share. Can you see this? This is a 3D printed Rani Kebab. It's a step well.
Rani Kebab is a stepwell in the town of Patan in Gujarat and located on the banks of the Saraswati River. The finest example of its kind and designed as an inverted temple.
So I basically just wanted to say that, you know, there are all three technologies here. There is 3D printing, there is virtual reality, there is projection mapping. I mean, so the possibilities are enormous, and obviously students would, you know, pick themselves what they want to do, but we can guide them. Whenever you want to put up this, I'm as excited as Suraj. This is, you know, something really what I've been wanting to do through my company is to take it to the, you know, the younger generation of what all is there in the culture and how much of it is possible to be exciting. It doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be, you know, something that you don't want to do. It should be very, very exciting. So I think this video may have shown a maybe tiny bit of excitement that is possible. Yeah, Sanjay, over to you, Sanjay.
Okay, should I run your video?
Yeah, that's okay. I think they can look it up. I think you've already circulated it as part of the.
Yes, I did, and we'll actually put it up later in the.
Yeah.
Suraj, you're excited to comment to the students.
Well, I am a student, so I'll always be excited for them. And
but you also have to tell, you have to also tell me about the glasses that you're wearing. See.
Okay, so these are orals. This is called Project Oral. So Project Oral is primarily focused on making people use their smartphones less and, you know, look around more. Like, we understand that, you know, your notifications are very important, but then this device allows you to focus and explore and look at your surrounding more than keep looking down onto the screen, right? What we realized was that humans seem to keep looking at their phone about 2,381 times per day. And we want to at least, like, with the oral, if you start using the oral, what you'll be able to do is primarily decrease that by a factor of about 30 to 40%. And, you know, so you will be exploring more by 40% because you will constantly be looking around yourself. And once you get habituated to that, maybe we are able to have a future where people are more curious. Students in general have been given many reasons and excuses to not be curious. So this is for research, but like, I understand, like, this is for research purpose and for validation purpose, but curiosity comes out of exploring yourself. So yes, I understand that there is a pandemic, but if you are in a pandemic and you want to explore, there are tools like this that you can use to explore. And if the pandemic is solved for you and you want to physically explore, you can use stuff like this to explore. So like, don't think that the next 5 years are extremely crucial for you as a student and for we as a country. And like, we'll try extremely hard to make sure that everything is provided to you, so you don't have to look anywhere else for that kind of stuff. When it comes to technology, when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to innovation or anything, right? Yeah, it's going to be a truly Atmanirbhar Bharat. Like, that's what we're going to hope for in the next 5 years. And students are going to drive that change.
Wonderful. Suraj, you have been really on the dot. Pankaj, your words from the wisdom.
Yeah, sure. So my 2 pence would be really is that first a kind of a reassurance to the students from the travel fraternity, tourism fraternity, that you are in the right domain, right? So though this is one industry which is getting impacted the hardest, one of the hardest, but this is also a kind of a proven fact that tourism and travel is one of the top GDP drivers across the globe, right? So it's one of the top industries that you are. So pandemic is going to be there for another couple of months, maximum a year, 14 months, but it's going to come back, right? I think this is the time, like I was saying, that never let a crisis go to waste. You have time on your hands. Get yourself acquainted with the technology, but technology is only an enabler, right? So my recommendation would be, look at problems around you. There are so many problems, right? So look at people who cannot really visit a site, right? So they have mobility issues, they have visual impairments, so they also deserve to really go travel, experience new places. Look at the communities, right, who are actually dependent on travel tourism trade, right? How can you help them? How can you actually now evolve experiences which are more immersive and authentic, right? So I think there are so many problems. Technology can always help, right? You have all these technologies at your disposal. The idea is how, like we were just discussing a while back, you have to put on a design thinking hat, right? Find a problem, find relevant solutions, and technology will just follow in. And that's largely to get to the right scale and the partner ecosystem. And I think the future is co-creation, collaboration. That's the only way you have to move forward. So my best wishes to all of you and to your guardians and your parents and the academicians. And I think for sure, one specific point that we had a very interesting discussion on was for the academicians, for the universities. I think the time probably is right now to really adopt digital in the most constructive way and try to see if we can actually fit it into the curriculum in some way and co-create it with the industry partners. I think there are a lot of industry players who actually feel the pain of, the students not really getting the right kind of skilling and training when they pass out. So I think this is a good platform now, the good time to really bridge that gap.
Thank you, Pankaj. I think it's been an amazing evening. We didn't know the elephant had so many parts to it, and each part relevant, but still each part is collaborative with the other one. I think armed with this kind of a knowledge and this kind of information, we will certainly at the foundation reach out to institutes and try to create a pilot and see how we can take it forward as an outcome of this activity. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It has been really interesting meeting you all. And for the students who are listening and academicians who are listening, technology is not alien. It is as human as we can feel it. So let's not get into this that technology is something that is not available to us. We could not be more humane than to adopt a technology. At this, thank you very much. See you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We should actually, now we are not recording this. Thank you very much and I think we should certainly meet for a physical cup of chai sometime when you are together.
चाय पे चर्चा, ये तो बॉम्बे में बैठा हुआ है, वो कलकत्ता साहब में बैठे हुए हैं. हम मिल सकते हैं, हम तीनों मिल सकते हैं.
Yeah.
शहर में रहते हो फिर भी नहीं मिलते हैं.
मेरे home quarantine में हो, if you want to endanger yourself, I am ready to wait.
नहीं आप दूर ही रहो.
That's a very nice way of inviting somebody home.
Like, that's another question.
Yeah.
Where is Suraj? Where are you?
Bombay.
Oh,
Bombay.
Suraj, you were saying something? You said you had a question.
Bombay. I was just answering that question. That's all.
Okay, fine. But I think we could actually collaborate and create at least a pilot. See, because today at the Tourism Foundation, we have strangely about 7 institutes which have joined hands as partner institutions. We have Aligarh Muslim University and Banaras Hindu University, which have the oldest tourism courses in the country.
Yeah.
But what they are teaching is something so primitive. They're still assuming that people will go to a front office and see, in our attempt to create a virtual event, we added a physical component to the entire thing. So we joined hands with Pride Hotels, and across the 53 properties across the country, we said all students who will register for the event can walk into any of the Pride Hotels, have a curated meal there for an X price, and they would get a hotel operations tour. So it's a fresher who gets into from the front door of the hotel.
Absolutely.
He has to learn that it's not that I have to only go and wash dishes here.
True.
So how do you expose a student beyond that? Because I still remember when we were studying architecture, we would wait and see, oh, yeah, today we have to go to Charles Correa's office and see कि वो क्या करते हैं. Office चलता कैसे है? Because it's very important to understand for a future entrepreneur. Yeah, he could be a competitor of tomorrow. But yes, it's our responsibility to go teach him also.
Yeah.
So, killer use case that we actually did in South Korea was a day in a life off. So there's an app called A Day in a Life Off.
Oh,
right? And it's all mostly in these counseling and culture learning or future study का जो advice type रहते हैं ना, वहाँ पे ये सब लगे हुए हैं. And it's just a simple virtual reality headset. And when you enter, the game basically starts and it asks you, what do you want to become? So if you say pilot, it will show you about 4 or 5 videos of a pilot, right? So in that, a pilot, everything from wearing your uniform to driving to a place to doing the checking and everything from the POV of a pilot, right? With a GoPro, like a stereo GoPro attached on the pilot's face. So that really allows the children to understand if something is very boring. Like, and the counselor also gets enough data because the counselor is able to say, see, you skipped through that entire part only to the takeoff, no? But life is not about that. Life is about everything. Waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning, to dressing up properly, making sure that your shoes are polished, getting into that cab. So it really helps the children understand, value to time, value to a lot of things, which previously these counselors were never able to communicate.
Who made this app?
We actually worked, there was an agency over there who was trying to fix this problem. We just plugged the product. So there was a technical glitch they were facing with the Daydream solution they had. So we just actually upgraded the solution. But the use case seemed relevant here. Because even in the travel tourism space, it feels relevant, right?
Actually, you can specialize in every avenue in terms of travel, tourism, and hospitality. You're talking about hotels, you're not talking about hotels front desk alone, or they have a service division, or they have a revenue manager, or a reputation manager, whatever.
True.
Yes, Sanjay. So
no, that's fine. Great. Thank you, guys.
And I'm highly thankful to all our eminent panelists for their insightful and thoughtful addresses, and also to the viewers of this session. I'm sure that the takeaways of the session will enthuse confidence among students and young professionals during the current testing times towards the new normal. We have a surprise for you all attendees. Scan the QR code on your screens with your mobile phones and answer 10 questions in 10 minutes. You will get to win prizes and surprise gifts. And I shall see you